This is Teen Quest Live, where we create online conversations about youth culture, parenting, and issues facing youth workers in today's world. Our host, Mark Witt, has served as a pastor and youth pastor in multiple churches, and he's the founder and director of Teen Quest, a youth ministry that creates peak experiences for youth groups and teenagers through camping, events, missions, and evangelism. Welcome to Teen Quest Live.
Hi, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. When one thinks of missions, we often think of missionaries in a tribe in South America or some remote place in the world. But lots of mission work is happening here in the USA. Mission to the homeless, mission to youth, mission to the handicapped, mission to the military, and the list goes on and on. Hey, I believe every youth group should take a mission trip, and staying in the United States can be a great place to start your mission trip. Today we're going to talk about how to choose a great US-based mission trip. My guest today is Jesse Happel, youth pastor of Real Life Community Church in Bel Air, Maryland. Jesse, good having you on the program today.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Tell us where Bel Air is.
Bel Air, Maryland is about an hour north of Baltimore. Our church up there, it's about an hour from where I live, so I just make the commute and everything like that. It's a good little town.
Now, you've been to the Teen Quest Ranch in Somerset, had a great time, you told me, before we started the show.
Yes, it's an amazing trip. The staff is wonderful, all the activities there, the food, everything was tremendous.
Great. We're glad to have you. Tell us about you, Jesse. How long have you been at the church, and how long have you been in youth ministry?
I've been at our church in Bel Air for about 3 years. Prior to that, I worked for 2 years at Crossroads Church of the Nazarene in Ellicott City. So I've been in full-time ministry for 5 years and just been kind of volunteering for, 10 years before that.
Wow, good. Well, I'll tell you what, you're in the battle for the minds and the hearts of young people. You keep it up, and man, we need great guys like you. I want to talk about what's the difference between a U.S.-based mission and a foreign-based mission? We're thinking of, when we think of missions, a lot of times we just think about going overseas. We think of a missionary. We think of a guy in some African tribe or some Asian place, but we don't really think a lot about missions in our own country. What's the difference?
I think, as you mentioned, a lot of times when people talk about missions trips, they think about going overseas and taking a trip and being away from family and friends and things like that, and that's wonderful. Jesus told us to go into all the world and make disciples. I think a lot of times we neglect the people in our own country because we think, oh, we're in the United States and everybody's taken care of, but in reality, that's not the case. And there's a tremendous need for just mission trips within our country, and there's a lot of people who haven't been reached, even with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So it's vitally important that we do put a good emphasis on national missions trips.
So you would agree with me that U.S.-based mission trips are very effective, as much as a foreign-based trip?
Absolutely, I certainly would. I've never been on a foreign trip myself. I've had a lot of friends that have done that as well. I went to Liberty University, and they were always sending out mission trips overseas and things like that. But just as important, as I said, is serving within our country.
Now, you have taken U.S.-based mission trips. Where have you gone?
I went down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, with there's an organization that's called YouthWorks, and they do a wonderful job, and I can talk more about that later. And then one of the trips that we do with our current youth and young adults at Real Life Community Church is we take a trip. It's about a week that we call Missions Week, and it's a series of day trips all over Maryland that we go and we serve our local communities there.
Now, when you say you serve your local communities, what do you do on a U.S.-based mission trip to the community? These are day trips, you said?
Correct. Yeah, well, and I think because of the demographics of our church and just I guess kind of financially where they are and in terms of just what they're comfortable with, we've tried to plan a couple trips where we go away, but either one, financially we couldn't have the resources for that, or we also would have a lot of teams that we're not able to commit to an entire week just because of family scheduling and things like that. So what we found doing is when we go around and we do these, like we've done served at missions, like missions organizations within the state. We've gone around and helped out at schools. We've gone to do community trash pickup. We've helped out at different organizations that way. What we found is by doing a series of day projects, it made it a lot more convenient for those who were interested in attending. So last year, as opposed to maybe 3 people who could do the entire week, we had 17 people who were able to help out on various days through the week. And it was great because it gave them an opportunity to serve when they might not have been able to do so otherwise for an entire week.
Wow. And so when your kids come back from these trips, what do you see happening to these students when they come back?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question to ask. I think one of the things that's most exciting for us is it really opens their eyes to the communities around them. I think a lot of times it's easy, just human nature for teens or even older people who are not teens anymore, to get kind of self-focused. Not that they're trying to do that, but their focus becomes on themselves. And when they're forced to step out of that comfort zone, I have a friend who says, he always talks about stepping out in faith. When you trust the Lord to go outside of your comfort zone and reach out to communities around you, your eyes are going to be open and you're going to become a lot more aware of the needs that are around you. And as a result of that, your mind starts thinking, how can I reach these people rather than how can I just meet my own needs?
All right. So that would be the way to describe a mission versus just going on a sightseeing or a tour. You're actually
Absolutely.
seeing something happen when they come back, and you're seeing some progress, and you're helping people and ministering to people.
Absolutely, and one of the things that's great is like our church service the following week, we give the teens a chance to stand up and share. And a lot of the teens who have been, scared of their own shadows will get up and say, this is what I saw God do in my life this week. God opened my eyes to these people around me, and a lot of them have shared just that they've had a lot more motivation to serve and to look for open doors wherever they can.
Now, if a youth pastor listening right now is looking for finding a good U.S.-based mission trip, what would they be looking for? Where could they find this information?
Well,
What's
I mentioned
criteria.
I mentioned before, just because this had been my experience, there was an organization called YouthWorks, and it's okay to just use a name of an organization there?
That's fine.
Okay, and one of the things that I really liked about them was they kind of, and I know there's several organizations that do this, but they kind of make the whole missions trip process quite a bit easy for youth pastors and churches who are looking to get plugged in. Basically what they do is they charge, a flat rate for every person that's attending, and it depends on, where you're going and how long. Most of these trips are 4 days to a week, and each of let's say you're bringing a group of 20 people. Each of those people has to come up with the money for that. But when they pay the organization, there's people that work for that organization full time. So we went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and what we did was we drove out there, and it was us and probably about 6 or 7 other church groups that met for this. And the YouthWorks staff had organized where we stayed, all the food that was going to be made. They had a cooking staff, and what they did is they had made connections within the community, so the community trusted them, and they understood, okay, these people are coming to look out for our best interest. They know that we were a Christian organization that was doing this, and it makes it extremely easy for the youth leaders who are taking the teams, because all they really have to be responsible for is helping out with the missions and kind of keeping an eye on the teens to make sure that nobody's getting into trouble or anything like that. But it was great. It takes all of the grunt and all the legwork off of the youth leaders' shoulders.
So you're suggesting there are organizations such as YouthWorks out there that youth pastors could contact, and they do all the legwork, and you just tie in with them. That you're suggesting that may be the best way to go in doing a U.S. mission trip.
Yeah, especially if you can afford it. Like if your church is able to help do fundraisers or things like that. Like it helps a lot when the church owns their own property and is able to come up with things. If there's people that are donating to their missions weeks and things like that.
No.
But yeah, I highly recommend it just because it takes a lot of the stress out of making contacts and trying to plan things. Because as you know, if you take a family vacation, you've got to make all the connections and plan where you're going to stay and travel arrangements and everything. They take care of all this kind of stuff for you.
Now, what are you looking for as a youth pastor in a mission trip? I mean, let's suppose there's XYZ youth mission out there, and
Hmm.
maybe Youth Works is full, and there's another youth mission out there that does stuff. And what are you looking for? I mean, what are you searching for when you contact a youth mission?
Personally, this is just me, but I like to find an organization that will help take the people outside of their comfort zone. I think it's all too easy to find stuff that, for anybody, to find things that people are comfortable with. But if you can find an organization that'll take you to a location or a people group that's outside your regular kind of sphere of influence, I think it's great, because it kind of makes you a little bit uncomfortable, and it requires that you trust God and you press into God for more direction and leading. Because obviously He loves everybody, that, just as much as each other, but it's fun to do that. I like that an organization is committed to service. One thing that was kind of nice about the trip that we did to Chattanooga is, I call it, we worked hard and played hard. In the evenings, they would have just little sightseeing things that we could go to do, but it was only after pretty much working our rear ends off all day. But I like an organization that, they're friendly, they reach out, they make everybody feel comfortable, and you can tell that their sole focus is on pleasing the Lord and serving people.
Awesome. Now, where do we begin? Now, we're looking for a U.S.-based mission operation. Where do we begin? Where do we look? I mean, I'm sure you can find some that are not doctrinally sound, and you probably could find some that are kind of maybe a little bit outside the evangelical circles. Where do you draw the line? Where do you begin? How do you sort through these?
To be honest, unless you have personal contacts and you know people, I think it's a wise idea to go on the internet and just start looking around, because anytime you, like, even if you type in, missions trip planning or youth trip planning, whatever you want to Google or Yahoo or whatever your search engine is, when you type that in and you look, it'll bring you up to pages and pages of organizations that do that. My recommendation is, if you find one that you think you might be interested in, click on it, and when you go to the site, as you mentioned, just try to find out theologically where they stand. Look at the About Us or the FAQ kind of questions, because what they will do is address, you can find on there, where they stand with the Lord and what their, I guess, just what their priorities are. And you can find out a lot about the organization before you commit to doing a trip with them.
Would you recommend starting with a U.S.-based mission trip for your students before you take them to a foreign mission trip?
Personally, just as I said, since I have not been on an overseas trip, I think that would be good, just because I think it can almost seem daunting if you think about, going overseas. Personally, other than like my honeymoon trip, I've never been out of the country. So, like, I would love to go serve in Europe or Asia or something sometime. But the thing is, I think had I not had some in-house, in-country trips, I probably would be a little bit more nervous about what to expect. I think even by going somewhere in-country, it gets your feet wet, and it gives you an opportunity to see what missions weeks or mission trips really are all about before you commit to going overseas. Just my personal thought.
I also want to give your thought, last question on, you're speaking to a youth pastor right now, and they're scratching their head and they're saying, I'm not sure I want to take any kind of mission trip at all anywhere. What would you tell them? What would you tell them about a mission experience? He don't want to do. I don't want to do that. Those are just trips out there that it's too much hassle. Whatever. What can you tell them?
I would say I think a lot of excuses that come to mind can be kind of cliched, and but really a missions trip will change your life. If no matter, and I've heard people say that for years and years before I did them. I said, everybody says that, but really that's the truth of it. If you submit yourself to what God's calling you to do in your life, and you're obedient, no matter how scary or challenging or whatever the case may be, if you're obedient to the Lord's calling, He's going to reach people through you that are probably not going to get reached otherwise, and He's going to do amazing works in you. My wife did a missions trip to Russia when she just graduated from high school, and she still talks about it, keeps up with all the people she went to, but it was one of the most life-changing experiences she ever had. And I would encourage people, I think I think honestly the devil try to like roadblocks and stumbling things in our path to try to dissuade us and redirect us from what God's called us to do. But if the Lord's calling you to do that, and I really feel like the Lord's calling everybody to missions, in whatever capacity it may be, overseas, within the country, down the street, be obedient to what the Lord's calling you to do, and He's going to provide you with everything that you need.
Well, in the summertime, Jesse, I want you to know that TeenQuest also does mission trips in the U.S. We do one in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, the great flood city, and we do it at the TeenQuest Ranch in Somerset. And also in the summertime, we do a mission trip to Costa Rica, take students down there and minister. So whether it's YouthWorks or TeenQuest, there's many organizations out there that are doing mission work. Get involved in that kind of thing. Jesse Happel, thanks so much for coming on with us today to talk about U.S.-based missions. And may the Lord bless you, and I hope to see you back at the ranch one of these times soon.
Thank you so much, Mark. God bless you, too.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on TeenQuest Live with Mark Witt. You know, the discussion is just starting. You can visit our website and leave your comments and thoughts about this topic. Find us online at teenquest.org. That's teenquest.org. And we'll see you next time on TeenQuest Live.